Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch, along with Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. We've got good, bad, and crazy martinis for you today, as usual. And Jim, if I told you 24 hours ago we'd be referring to jets in the good martini today, you probably would have expected a different story.
Let's get on with the news.
But no, it's good news for all of us because American jets, as well as ships based in various bodies of water, the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, Mediterranean, launching missiles and dropping bombs onto ISIS targets in Syria. Here's how the president explained it earlier this morning.
Last night, on my orders, America's armed forces began strikes against ISIL targets in Syria. Today, the American people give thanks for the extraordinary service of our men and women in uniform, including the pilots who flew these missions with the courage and professionalism that we've come to expect from the finest military that the world's ever known.
But the surprise is that ISIS was not the only target.
Last night, we also took strikes to disrupt plotting against the United States and our allies by seasoned al-Qaeda operatives in Syria who are known as the Khorasan Group. And once again, it must be clear to anyone who would plot against America and try to do Americans harm that we will not tolerate safe havens for terrorists who threaten our people.
So from what we know, Jim, there's at least 150 precision-guided munitions dropped on various targets in and around Raqqa, Syria. That's the headquarters of ISIS, as well as the sites of the Khorasan Group. What we didn't have this time, of course, was Bernie Shaw and Peter Arnett hiding out in a hotel watching the bombs land. So we didn't get to see exactly what the damage was done, but it seems like everyone's pretty confident that the mission was a success.
I completely understand if people feel a little bit of anxiety about this. Obviously, war is not a decision to be taken lightly, and there's a long road ahead. However, at its most basic, this morning when we all woke up, a bunch of ISIS guys didn't. There was one report by the Syrian Human Rights Observatory that estimated that about 70 ISIS fighters were killed and another 300 injured. We'll know if these numbers are, obviously there's a lot of fog of war, but look, right now ISIS was a group that was determined to get America's attention. They executed 2 Americans and they basically said, we reserve the right to kill you, don't mess with us, we will do what we want here. Up until the moment they killed Americans, we could kind of ignore them. We could kind of brush them off. We could leave them to allies. But these guys thought they could kill Americans and get away with it. And now they're learning the consequence of that. They wanted our attention. Now they've got them. And for all of our beefs with President Obama, all of our concern with administration policy, and we'll get to that a little bit in the second martini, it is a good thing when the United States and its military stands up to evil. And lo and behold, here we go. We will see how things shake out. As we speak, the Pentagon is giving an updated briefing on this. I don't think this is going to be a short conflict. I think a group like ISIS does not get wiped out with just 1 or 2 waves of airstrikes. We're sending a very clear signal that if you target Americans, we will come after you. And I think that is always something we can stand up and applaud and support when we're going after evil forces that threaten Americans and the innocent in other countries as well.
Yeah, that's certainly good news. And there also seems to be pretty high confidence levels at the Pentagon and at the White House that the Khorasan Group, the people involved in the plotting against Western targets and American targets, potentially even airliners, that those people were wiped out as well. Obviously, that'll have to be confirmed. But if, in fact, that's the case, that's obviously a wonderful martini as well. All right, on to the bad news. And as Jim alluded to just a minute ago, there are different parts of the policy. While everyone's agreed on the need to destroy ISIS, how to get there is sometimes a bit of a debate. And one of the things the president has insisted upon is that there will be no American ground forces. What we want to do is build the Iraqi forces back up and also train some moderate Syrian rebels. Well, we've had the debate about the Syrian rebels, but now we've got some less than encouraging news about the Iraqi forces. This is from the Washington Post. The army base in Iraq's western Anbar province had been under siege by Islamic State militants for a week. So when a convoy of armored Humvees rolled up at the gate, the Iraqi soldiers there believed saviors had arrived. But it was no rescue attempt. The vehicles were driven by militants on suicide missions, and within seconds on Sunday, the base had become a bloody scene of multiple bombings. 5 survivors said that somewhere between 300 and 500 soldiers were missing and believed dead, kidnapped, or in hiding. If the survivors' accounts are correct, it would make Sunday the most disastrous day for the Iraqi army, since several divisions collapsed in the wake of the Islamic State's capture of the northern city of Mosul. In any case, the chaotic incident has highlighted shortcomings in an army that the United States has spent billions of dollars training and equipping, and it has further undermined the force's reliability as a partner as President Obama expands airstrikes into provinces including Anbar. So, Jim, most people admit and agree that we do need ground forces. We'd prefer them not to be our own. We're hoping it could be the people who actually live there, but it doesn't look like they're anywhere close to being up to the job.
No, and what you just read, I mean, that's a very depressing way to start the day, particularly in light of what the U.S. had begun last time. Because, the plan is apparently to take these various fighters in Syria and try to bring them to Saudi Arabia and other places and train them. By most estimates, this is going to take at least a year to get these groups to the point where they're ready to take on ISIS on the battlefield. We won't have much of a ground force to go after ISIS to support the bombing that we're doing. The ground force that currently exists, the Iraqi army over in Iraq, as we noticed, they fell apart in the face of ISIS earlier this year. And what's more, they had years of training and the very best equipment, and they fell apart under better circumstances than we're seeing right now. The idea that we're going to get a better, more effective fighting force out of these random, little rebel groups and stuff is not optimistic. It seems like a good long ways off. So that's a bit of a challenge. Right now, we have everything we need for a very effective air campaign, but we don't have support on the ground. And at this point, it's not really clear where that's going to come from. The Kurds have one region, various Syrian factions, and with questions, how do you fight them without inadvertently helping Assad in the process? We may be witnessing the limits of U.S. air power in the next couple of weeks and months, unless at some point there's some sort of usefulness of U.S. special operations groups or other things like that. Maybe the administration or the coalition has some other card up their sleeve, because right now we're going to be running a really effective air campaign against a group that's just probably going to hide in cities and just kind of try to wait us out.
One of the good things, I was speaking with a retired general last week. He said there's not a tree between the Syrian border and Mosul or between Raqqa and the Syrian-Iraqi border. So if they are exposed, we should be able to get them in the sights pretty quickly. But obviously, if they use the human shields, as other extremist groups have been known to do, Hamas, we'll see what happens in that situation, certainly. All right, on to the crazy Martini now, and the debate over ISIS and other radical elements of radical Islamist movements will be dissected at the United Nations this week. That'll be one of the focal points of the Obama administration. Another will be climate change for some reason. But always running in conjunction the last few years with the opening of the UN General Assembly is the Clinton Global Initiative. And Hillary Clinton was moderating a panel on Monday's version of the Clinton Global Initiative. And this year's theme is Reimagining Impact, and Hillary explained what that really means.
Reimagining impact requires leaders who will reimagine and who will be unafraid to do so and ask themselves, beginning with themselves, hard questions, and then ask others in their leadership team, but even get beyond.
Jim, all those words were in English, but not sure what they meant.
I mean, are they just redoing the John Lennon song? Reimagine is? It's a mixtape of some kind or a cover band? Oh, my God. Here's the thing. I remember a couple of weeks ago watching Hillary Clinton interviewed by Christiane Amanpour of CNN for 1 hour. And so many of the answers to these questions, like gay rights, gun rights, all kinds of topics. And, the Hillary answer was always, this is something we need to look at very seriously, or this is something we need to consider very carefully. Like this total non-answer answers. And I'm kind of struck by the number of people who walk around utterly convinced that Hillary is bright and some sort of great public intellectual when she doesn't say anything. I mean, it sounds like she's saying things. Those are all words. But what does it take for a leader to reimagine? Can I get a noun, please? Let's start there. What are we reimagining? And if so, the other thing I would kind of observe is that reimagining is one of those metrics that someone uses when they can't get actually good results. Did you kill the enemy? No, but I reimagined new ways to kill the enemy. Are you selling the product? No, but we're reimagining. Question, Greg, where does the line get drawn between reimagining and daydreaming?
Implementation, I guess.
I guess maybe she's reimagining running for president in a better way than she did last time, or even by the standards of blather, safe, vanilla, mashed potato mush speaking by politicians. Hillary's a real champion in this category, and the fact that she can go out and does this, and everyone in the audience, these smart people, the Davos crowd at the Clinton Global Initiative, they nod and they rub their chins and they throw their thought-provoking. What did that mean? Hillary Clinton could stand up and recite the lyrics to Mary Poppins, and everyone would go, thought-provoking, which is really not all that far, from Greg. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down.
Wow.
That's how you go. Yeah.
Profound. Yeah, as long as you get that dramatic pause in there, it really makes you think.
So, there we go.
Oh, man.
President, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, let's hope not. Jim, have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Greg.
Jim Garrity of National Review. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. And join us again on Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.